Adam, we are back again to talk about some of the top 10 teams in the draft that have really, really struggled this year. And we want to find out why it's gone so wrong for them and how they can rebuild and get the best out of the future. We are back to pick 6 at the minute, which is the Tennessee Titans. Let's bring up our draft board. Adam, they are in pick 6. They are another one of those 3 and 10 teams. Bit of a, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird one with this team. They've not quite got the quarterback right. The defense has looked strong at times and very good. Are they wasting a good defense with the quarterback they've got? And that's why they're in this position? Or is there a bigger problem here in Tennessee?
Yeah, it does kind of feel like it's been a bit of a waste, doesn't it, with Will Levis? It's not really worked. He's been all right at times, but it just
turned the ball over a lot. And look,
he has.
It's good for entertainment value.
yeah. I don't know if that's what they're hoping for, but that's where it's been a bit of a problem, hasn't it, with Will Levis? It's not really worked, and the whole sort of the Titans are a bit of a weird one, just generally as an organisation. They very much sort of, if you look at their history, it's almost like they have little 3-4 year windows where they do quite well. When they had Mike Mularkey there, 2016 to 18, it was all 9 and 7 seasons and were looking okay. Mike Vrabel came in and you had 9 and 7, but then you had a couple of years in 2020 and 2021 where they were 11-5, 12 and 5. I think they were the first seed, weren't they? One year they did really, really well and looked really good. And what was interesting was that in 2022 it started fading away, and there's a couple of things that have happened where you can sort of look at it and you go, okay, I can see where this has gone wrong. And John Robinson, who was the general manager there between 2016 and 2022, he traded away AJ Brown at the end of the 2021 season, and it all went wrong after that, to be honest. That's where it all kind of fell apart, and it kind of felt like Mike Vrabel and the general manager and the ownership, the relationship was never the same again, and it kind of just started deteriorating from that point. And although he was there for 22 and 23, it kind of just sort of all died a little bit. When you look at some of the first round picks that they had, John Robinson picked, he went for Isaiah Wilson at tackle in 2020, Caleb Farley 2021 at corner, and then in 2022, which turned out to be his last first round pick that he did for them, he went and got Treylon Burks to replace AJ Brown. Obviously, that didn't work, and it is interesting. It is very much that point. That's where it's all gone wrong. You've now seen, obviously, Derrick Henry has gone now as well. The quarterback isn't really any good. They got Ran Carthon, who's now come in as the general manager. He was there in 2023. It's already been confirmed that he's staying on as the general manager, so we're not going to be replacing him at all. And in fairness to him, he's had 2 first-round picks and he's brought in Peter Skoronski and JC Latham. So, he's brought in 2 decent O-line guys there. So he hasn't done bad. Brian Callahan, the head coach, is in year 1 at the moment. If you look at the way that Brian Callahan, and probably more importantly how his father, Mike Callahan, wanted to play, it is about run heavy. They want to run the ball a lot and then use the wide receivers and pass, play action and stuff like that. But it is about being run heavy. And I don't really feel like they've got that at the moment. It's almost like they need Derrick Henry back, but they need him 6 or 7 years ago, Derrick Henry back. And that's the problem. So I think there's a lot of holes on this team, and there's not going to be any changes at GM or head coach. I think we're sticking as we are, but there are plenty of holes and plenty of needs that this team has to have a look at. And they do have some cap space. They've got about 46 million, so it's not awful for them. But yeah, they need to bring in some players.
Do you think, saying bringing in players, do you think that you could label the Titans as a cheap franchise? Do you think you could say, they never pay their players, they let them go out the door? They've never really, they had Tannehill at quarterback in that time, and now they've got a rookie, and they haven't had bar Vrabel, they haven't had a head coach that's kind of like a big name, go out and win it all. They've like taken first time job people. Do you think that's why they're struggling? Because they don't swing for the fences, they don't make big, bold, let's pay AJ Brown, let's pay Derrick Henry, let's, do you think these are the decisions that have put them where they are?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair criticism. I don't think they're a particularly I don't think they're not particularly cash rich as an ownership, I don't think. And so I think that is a bit of a problem for them. That's why maybe when it comes to paying like real big money, I'm not sure they have the ability to do that. So I think that kind of causes a few issues for them. But I mean, it doesn't matter if you've got AJ Brown, you pay him. It's it's that simple. But I mean, we've got another one, haven't we? In the Bengals, another team, cash poor team. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You've got Jamar Chase, you pay him. It doesn't matter who you have. Now, if you want to talk about do you pay T Higgins, that's a different thing, because you've got Jamar Chase and you paid him, and you've got Joe Burrow and you pay them. That's what you do. So it's like, this is, if you draft AJ Brown, then you should be applauded for picking the right guy, and then you pay them. It's almost like that's the punishment of doing well. It's like you pay the guy. So the idea of trading him away and just thinking, I can just bring in Treylon Burks and it'll all be fine, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think that's where you've got a team that maybe isn't quite as cash rich as some of the others, and that's the problem.
Yeah, we'll take a look at their team and see where these holes are and where they can buy these players. From the looks of it, for me, they have invested a little bit in that O-line. Skoronski, Latham, Petit Ferrer from Ohio in there as well. So they're all right there. And we said that defense has been good. It has been very, very good. And looking down the line, they've got some good names on there. We know that they're possibly losing Sebastian Joseph Day, but they bought Sweat in, Simmons, Landry, Murray, I think is a very talented player. Amani Hooker, Awuzie. So, they're some good names on that defense. That maybe a couple of holes, but is it more offensively? Calvin Ridley's played well fantasy-wise, I believe, but is it offense that seems to be the struggle here?
So obviously, quarterback. We're both in agreement that quarterback needs to change. So that's the main one. Wide receiver, they do need to bring someone in. Hopkins obviously has gone now. Nick Westbrook, Akine, and Tyler Boyd are both free agents this year. So I think wide receiver is a big need. On the O-line, yes, JC Latham and Peter Skoronski have been great on the left side. I don't think Dylan Redunze has been fantastic. Petit Ferrer has not been fantastic this season, but he's done well in the past. So I think I could understand why people might want to stick with him. So I do feel like there needs to be a little bit of O-line help, but I wouldn't say it's the most important thing. But yeah, wide receiver is a definite one we need to look at. QB is a definite one we need to look at. Running back, I think they're fine. I think they're just going to go again with Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. They're not free agents, so I think both of them.
I think Tony Pollard's had a good year with them. I think he's
played well. Yeah, I think Pollard's done well for him, and he's been all right. So I think that because of that will remain the same. That's not a problem. And then when you look at the defense, I think corner is somewhere that you might want to have a look at. Snead has not had a particularly great season. I know he's injured, but I would argue he's not had a particularly good season either. So I think that's that's something that they may want to have a look at. Edge rushers, I think, if I'm right, they've got. I know you were saying that the defense has been good, and it has. But like defensive tackle, they've got Sebastian Joseph Day, free agent, Marlon Davidson, free agent, James Lynch, free agent, Keandre Coburn, free agent. We need a defensive tackle. So I think that's something that they're going to want to have a look at and bring in as well. And then, like you say, that it's been all right. It hasn't been awful. So I don't think that there's necessarily anything major that you want to look at. But I feel like when it comes to drafting, I think it's definitely about quarterback and wide receiver. They do have a bit of money. They got 46 million, so they could go out and get a wide receiver. But once you get past T. Higgins, it does kind of feel a little bit like there's not that much like that you'd be willing to spend big money on. So to me, I think that wide receiver is an option for the draft. I think quarterback, obviously, a little bit of help at right tackle might be the way forward, or right guard. You could go for a tight end in the draft. Just I think Chig is okay, but he doesn't get involved that much. And yeah, there's nothing after him really. I mean, Nick Vanette's not going to do much for you. So I think maybe a tight end, as it's a strong tight end class, could be the way forward.
Yeah, you talk about quarterback and where they are a pick, and I think if you've seen any of the previous shows, then the top two have gone. They're out of the question. That these guys, I don't think they can trade up. It might be a gamble. I don't think.
I don't know. I think these are a candidate to trade up.
Well, I don't think they've got a lot of draft capital. I was going to say, I'm not sure they've got loads to play with. So with them needing a wide receiver, do you think that this could be the first team we talk about that maybe looks at what they can get in free agency at quarterback? And is this the first team we look at that might look at Sam Darnold?
Sam Darnold, okay. Yeah, I mean, it could be the way forward for them. What is the sort of, recommended amount for Darnold?
10 million.
Okay. I mean, he's going to cost more than that, isn't he?
Yeah.
But they've got 46 million, so they could go down that route. They could go for Darnold. And if they went for him, then like you say, they could go Darnold here, and then they could go and get probably the best wide receiver in the draft.
They could equally, if it's not Darnold and that's too much of a reach for them. Do you think that Justin Fields is out of the question for 1 year, maybe?
I don't think you'd want him as your starter. I think if you're doing that, you're basically saying we're not doing anything this year.
I don't know. I think he's good enough. I think he proved at the Steelers that he can win games and he can do well if the defense is good and the O line's good. And we said the O line's decent there, and they're good. They've got a good running game, which he could join in with. So just kind of worry that they might not get better than Justin Fields in the draft if they pick and they can go and get that wide receiver. So he might be an option, but Sam Darnold.
I understand what you're saying. I think Darnold is probably the one that you're going to want to go for, but I think you're probably going to be looking closer to 20 million than 10 myself for him.
But it depends what the Vikings
market is, I suppose, doesn't it?
The Vikings do. The Vikings might not want to just let him walk out the door. I don't know. They might want to. Well, they wouldn't say they franchise tag him because that means they'd have to give him like 40 million guaranteed, wouldn't they? But they might not want to let him walk out the door.
True.
Well, they've got Danny Dimes now, haven't they? So
I think. I mean, we'll have a look and see what kind of draft capital they have. But I do wonder if they might be a team that looks to move up and maybe take Jalen Milroe.
I'm not sure you're moving up and taking Jalen Milroe. I think it'll.
Well, I don't. Well, what do you not think that? Because the thing is, if Sanders and Cam Ward go 1 and 2, do you not think there would be a concern that someone else might? I mean, bear in mind, you've got someone like the Browns who might try and move on.
I think that after those two, the rest of them might be labelled as all of the same quality.
Well,
So
if that's the case, then I would rather just take Milroe at 6. Then I think that rather than take Darnold,
like the Broncos did with Bo Nix. They just sat there and went, "Oh, well, fine, we'll just wait, and it'll still be here." I don't think you need to risk it. And if you did went, "Oh, let's sit and wait for Milroe," and he went before you, if you're then taking someone else, I don't think you're massively losing out too much. I think Milroe is great, but he has his flaws, like a lot of them have after this. So they could just wait till another round and get someone. So let's make sure that's on 3 rounds. Yep. So they have got 2 picks.
Okay, so we're not moving up.
Not unless they want to give up some future capital, which I don't think they want to do that.
So I think based on that, if they've only got the 2 picks, it goes to show they're going to have to do quite a bit in free agency. And I think they're probably going to have to kind of look at cheaper options. So, as we were saying, corner, someone like Asante Samuel Jr. would be great. I think there are wide receivers and O-line guys out there. So there's plenty of guys that they can get with their 46 million. So they're not in an awful spot, but they're obviously not going to be spending big on anyone in particular. So I feel like that, to me, it kind of feels like quarterback is what they're probably going to want to or need to do. Yeah.
I'm looking at those quarterbacks for pick 6. Yes, Jalen Milroe is the obvious option, but I'm looking at Quinn Ewers might be going back to college. Depending on what happens in this playoffs, he may return to college, not at Texas. He may go into the transfer portal and find himself somewhere else because he's had a very, very down year that's damaged his draft stock, which I don't think he's going anywhere near the first round, maybe not even the second round now. So let's rule Ewers out on that list. Drew Aller is impressed this year. The guy is 6'6". He's 230 odd pounds. He's got a cannon of an arm. I think if people look at him and go, he's a bit inaccurate, but Josh Allen was a bit inaccurate, but Josh Allen's a monster of a guy, and you might go, Aller's more accurate than Josh Allen was at college. So let's see what he does in the playoffs, because they might be able to take him, which might be the same level as prospect as you've got with Milroe. So I do believe wide receiver might be their pick.
Okay, so you think that Aller will be there in the second round and then take wide receiver here. So you could take Luther Burden here then. I
mean, well, I'd take McMillan here.
if he was there.
I mean, I'd take McMillan here because I thought he'd still be on there based on what we picked already. We haven't had a wide receiver go, so I thought, they're just going to get their pick of. I think they'll have the pick of the wide receivers at this pick.
Okay, so if we go along with this scenario that's happened, and you can't have Tet McMillan, does that mean that Travis Hunter's there? In which case, you go? Is he gone as well? Sorry, I couldn't see it. Is he gone?
Oh, unless he's classed as a cornerback.
He's classed as a corner.
Yeah, he's still there.
So, do you go for Travis Hunter, or do you go for Luther Burden?
I can't live in a world where this is possible. They're taking wide receiver, and they'll take Luther Burden.
Okay.
They're going to be taking T-Mac.
But it is possible that the Patriots might go, we want the wide receiver one. In which case, then you're at that position where it's like, well, you could have either one or the two. Because we have got corner as a potential need for this team. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's a possibility. There we go. Drew Aller is still there.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart's still there as well, which I believe he's a great talent. I really like him. What's odd to see, because I don't think he's announced it yet, but Garrett Nussmeier's not on this list, and I don't know whether he's going. Maybe he's going to return. Maybe everybody, all signs are pointing towards him returning to LSU for another year, which is a very, very, very strong possibility. But I like Garrett Nussmeier, and if he's in this draft class, then he would be a possibility here. But why not take a punt on someone else at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's a really difficult one because obviously this is what they've done with Levis.
Yes.
So they've taken a punt in the second round with a guy with a massive arm.
Yeah, but this guy doesn't eat bananas with the skin on and drink mayonnaise.
Oh, well, that's all right then. So it all makes sense then. So that's the only concern, because historically, when teams do one thing and it doesn't work, they don't normally do it again. But this is what we're doing. So if this is what we want, then that's fine. But
I think Darnold might be an option. So they've got the wide receiver. If it's not quarterback and they've got Darnold, let's say, what other position would you look at?
Personally, I think right side of the O-line could do with a bit of help. So that's something, if there's someone there for that. Other than that, I think edge.
Well, yeah, they could take Booker, who's apparently still available, or they could take JT Tuilamuau as well, or they could take Prince Emmanuel. So yeah, definitely go edge if that's the case.
Yeah,
either of those two, they're suggested as well. So that in a scenario where they are taking Darnold in free agency, I think they go wide receiver, then best edge available. And in a scenario where things do fall into place, maybe they take Aller, maybe Jalen Milroe's there. But for this scenario, they're taking Princely, who I think's been exceptional this year. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's probably the way forward for them. So yeah, I mean, they've obviously haven't got a lot of draft capital, so there's only so much they can do this year. But they've got themselves a really good wide receiver there, really good edge rusher as well. And like we say, if they've gone and got Darnold, then that's great. If not, then you take the quarterback instead of the edge rusher. And as we said, yes, there's a lot of holes, but there's a lot of guys that they can bring in and really make a difference for them. So I think that the O-line being sorted out wouldn't be a problem. And I think they've had a bit of an issue at corner with Snead being injured and not playing very well as well. But again, that's just something else where I think you can get yourself a corner really cheaply. So they've got the money to do all that. And yeah, I think for Titans fans, it's just, again, it's about being patient. That's what it's about here. They've got first year with a head coach. The quarterback hasn't worked. So you've got to let him bring in his own guy at some point, whether that's Darnold or whether that's through the draft. And I think that they can turn it around in a division. As we said when we did the Jag show, it's the same thing. They can turn this round quite quickly and be decent again. So it's not all doom and gloom for them, but it's they do have quite a few holes that they need to. Some good accounting needs to be done, I think, in order to get enough players through the door here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them this offseason. I think it's going to be a really good work for their GM, isn't he? He's going to have to maybe have a crash course with Harry Roseman of how to sort this out. Because it's going to be a tough one for them. But as we said, they've got some talent on that team. I don't think they're 3-10 talent. I think they're slightly better than that. So again, it might be another team that's their turnaround might be a bit quicker than some of the others that we've mentioned that might need a few more years.
Yeah,